Joining me now to further discuss the DPRK's latest nuclear test and to provide us with the U.S. perspective is Chris Hill, former U.S. ambassador to South Korea and professor at the Joseph Corbel School of International Studies at the University of Denver. Ambassador, what should the United States do? What should the UN community do? Is there anything that they can do to apply some pressure on the DPRK?
Well, first of all, we have to apply pressure on the DPRK. What they've done is really unacceptable. We put together a program in Beijing, the six-party talks. We put together a joint statement. We listened carefully to the DPRK. We put every element that they talked about. They were interested in a peace plan on the peninsula. We put that there. They wanted a declaration from us of no hostile intent. We did precisely that. We were prepared to put everything in on the table, and we're prepared to sequence how those things would be implemented such that we were not expecting the North Koreans to do everything first. Instead, the North Koreans have essentially walked away from that deal and begun this very belligerent, and I cannot emphasize enough how belligerent this is to everybody, including to the United States and China. So for us to walk away from this or to say there's nothing we can do about it is really not acceptable. So in answer to your question, I think we need to really tighten up those sanctions. I'm not someone who immediately goes for sanctions, but I think sanctions need to be part of this. I think we need to keep the door open to negotiations. But I think from the U.S. perspective, the U.S. is going to have to work very closely with two allies in the region, Japan and South Korea, on what type of military equipment, military technology they're going to need to help in our common defense. This is really an unacceptable turn of events, and we should not allow this to stand.
Ambassador Hill, you've been in the region, obviously. You were a diplomat there. So help us with the question I know a lot of people were asking. Why is this happening? Why now? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think we have a North Korean military that listens to no one, including to their civilian authorities. So they have a timetable for what they're doing in terms of this nuclear program. I mean, a key question that will presumably be answered in the coming days is whether they used highly enriched uranium, a program about which we know very little because the North Koreans consistently lied about it, lied right to our faces at the six-party talks. That is, they lied to the Chinese, they lied to the U.S. So we know they have this program, and now the question is how far along they've gotten. So why now? I think the answer is they don't care what the rest of us think. They have their own timetable for trying to marry up a missile with a nuclear warhead.
You were ambassador to South Korea, so take us into the mindset of the leadership there. How will they be viewing this?
The South Koreans have for many years tried to reach out to the North Koreans, tried to reduce tensions on the Korean peninsula. One can argue at times with whether President Lee Myung-bak used too strong language as he proposed a sort of grand bargain. Was he too tough with the North Koreans? One can argue with some of the language he chose, but his intent was very clear. They are prepared to allow North Korea to live on its own with its own system. Instead, the North Koreans have very belligerently attacked South Korean leaders personally and have really shown no interest whatsoever in any kind of North-South dialogue. So I would say the South Korean people and the South Korean leadership, and you know they have a new president coming in just a couple of weeks, are very frustrated in their dealings with North Korea. And I think the worst problem right now is they really don't know who to talk to. We have this young man who's a leader, a hereditary leader, and it's not at all clear that he's a person to talk to at this point.
All right, Chris Hill joining us from Denver. Thanks so much for your thoughts. Certainly appreciate it.